This is the third installment in my journey through Marvel's overlooked corners, the heroes who never quite got the spotlight they deserve. After covering the first two waves of forgotten characters, I'm diving even deeper into the strange, underrated, and the outright bizarre. In this chapter, I meet a cartoonish powerhouse who defies physics, a reluctant initiative recruit who just wants to fly, a mystical fighter walking a fine line between hero and haunted soul, a jungle-born protector with a divine connection, and lastly, a Bronx-born crime fighter with an impenetrable force field. Each of these characters has a story worth telling, and I'm here to uncover them. These are the characters Marvel built, but then let fade into the background. I'll explore their stories, their powers, and why, even decades later, they could still make an impact in today's universe. Slapstick, cartoon carnage in a comic book world. Slapstick is one of the strangest superheroes Marvel has ever created. First appearing in The Awesome Slapstick #1 in November 1992, he is brought to life by Len Kaminsky and James Fry. On the surface, he looks like an animated clown yanked straight out of Looney Tunes. And that's not far from the truth. His powers let him warp reality to match that of a cartoon, pulling giant weapons out of nowhere, stretching, flattening, and walking away from injuries that should be fatal. Slapstick started as Steve Harmon, a wisecracking class clown from New York City. While plotting a prank against his school rival at a carnival, Steve followed a group of kidnappers through a portal and wound up transformed into a living cartoon made of unstable molecules. From there, his adventures went from bizarre to outright surreal. The scientist supreme of Dimension X, who looked like Groucho Marx, taught him to control his new form. And soon, Steve was using his cartoon physics to take down threats in the real world. His rogues gallery only added to the madness. He fought the Overkiller, a Punisher knockoff who tried to kill him in a shopping mall. He squared off against Dr. Denton and Teddy, a genius preteen duo, and the Neutron Bump, an unhoused man whose body generated explosions, until Slapstick defused the situation by getting him a cup of coffee. Despite his absurdity, Slapstick did cross into more mainstream superhero circles. He briefly fought alongside the New Warriors, became a member of the Initiative during Civil War, and even faced off against the Hulk's Warbound during World War Hulk. At Camp Hammond, he was as likely to be assigned morale duty as he was to throw hands. But he still left his mark, especially when he nearly killed the Avenger known as Gauntlet out of loyalty to his New Warrior teammates. Slapstick even showed up in Fear itself, joining a coalition of heroes fighting the worthy, and later found himself recruited by Deadpool into the Mercs for money. Marvel gave him another solo book in 2017, this time with Riley Brown and Fred Van Lent, though it only ran 6 issues. His full name was finally revealed there as Stephen Windsor McKay Harmon. As for powers, Slapstick's body is made of electroplasm, a substance that renders him virtually indestructible. He has superhuman strength, durability, and unlimited malleability. His gloves also contain alien tech. One controls his ability to switch between human and cartoon form, and the other acts as a pocket dimension, letting him pull out weapons or props just like a cartoon gag. Slapstick is one of those characters who could actually thrive if Marvel leaned into what makes him unique. In a world full of brooding anti-heroes and multiverse storylines, Slapstick represents pure chaos. His cartoon physics could serve as both the source of comedy and horror depending on how the story is told. Imagine a limited series where Slapstick's living cartoon body starts glitching, breaking the laws of physics in dangerous ways. What if the cartoon reality taps into isn't just a joke dimension, but something darker and more dangerous that leaks into our world whenever he fights? Or flip it the other way. Place him in a Deadpool or Gwenpool style satire where he's the only one who truly understands the absurdity of the Marvel continuity because he literally lives outside the rules of physics. He could also be used as Marvel's commentary on media itself. Picture Slapstick realizing that the world is moving on from slapstick comedy and that he's becoming obsolete, a forgotten tune in a grim cinematic superhero universe. That's not just a funny setup, it's thematically perfect for a character who never quite fit in to begin. With the right creative team, Slapstick could go from forgotten 90s oddity to cult favorite icon, a reminder that sometimes the weirdest ideas are the ones worth revisiting. Cloud9, the hero who never wanted to be one. Abigail Abby Boylan, better known as Cloud9, was created by Dan Slott and Stefano Caselli. She was born out of Marvel's Civil War era, a time when every powered individual was forced to register with the government. Unlike her peers though, Abby wasn't a natural-born fighter, a legacy hero, or even someone who wanted to play the game. She was just a painfully shy teenager from Evanston, Illinois, who wanted nothing more than to fly. That dream came true after she came into contact with the strange alien gas that bonded to her. granting the ability to create, shape, and ride massive clouds of extraterrestrial vapor. To her it was freedom, but to the government it was a resource to be conscripted. Caught during one of her joyrides by War Machine, Cloud9 was forcibly drafted into Camp Hamlet, where she trained alongside other heroes like Komodo, Trauma, Slapstick, and Hardball. Her time in the initiative was brutal. She quickly went from being the most reluctant cadet to being one of its most effective sharpshooters. She watched MVP die, killed a Skrull imposter during the Secret Invasion, and hardened under the weight of responsibility she never asked for. Her story wasn't one of wish fulfillment. It was about survival in a world that demanded she become something she never wanted to be. Cloud9's powers made her one of the most unique recruits of the initiative. By generating endless supply of alien vapor, she could soar through the skies at tremendous speeds, even outmaneuvering fighter jets. She could use the same vapor to conceal allies, carry passengers, or create thick cover that made her team almost untouchable in the field. Her abilities could just as easily be turned lethal, as she demonstrated by suffocating opponents with the vapor forced into their lungs. On top of that, Abby was trained to be the initiative's top sharpshooter, personally instructed by Black Widow, and her marksmanship made her dangerous with the rifle as she was with her powers. Her emotional detachment also allowed her to resist fear-based attacks, a trait that made her uniquely resilient against psychological manipulation. Her storylines after the initiative showed how conflicted she remained about her place in the Marvel Universe. She served briefly on Montana's Freedom Force. That only hardened her further. She even killed a teammate who was revealed to be a Skrull. When Steve Rogers later offered her the role at Avengers Academy, Abby dramatically quit, dumping her costume and walking away from superhero world entirely. She returned sporadically, siding with Jeremy Briggs in his anti-superhuman crusade, showing up during Fear itself as a reluctant hero again, and later joining the Underground during Secret Empire. After that, she was listed as a reserve champion, but was never really used. Despite being set up as one of the initiative's breakout characters, Cloud9 ultimately drifted into obscurity. Cloud9 is a character built on conflict, someone who never wanted to be a hero, but who kept getting pulled back into the fight. That tension makes her stand out compared to the endless stream of eager teenage superheroes. She also embodies the darker legacy of the Civil War era, where the government tried to control the next generation of heroes, and she's one of the few initiative characters who could truly stand on her own. A modern story could dig into her trauma and moral conflict. She's someone who has killed, who has lost friends, and who never asked for any of this. Imagine her as a reluctant mentor figure for the new champions, the one who tells them the hard truth about what being a hero really costs. Or picture Cloud9 facing a villain who weaponizes fear, only to find out that her emotional distance, once considered a weakness, makes her the only one who can resist it. Even visually, she's striking. There's something haunting about a shy, ordinary young woman surrounded by towering clouds that can either cradle allies or choke enemies. She's Marvel's answer to the question of what would happen if Storm's weather-controlling majesty was compressed into one deeply insecure teenager. Cloud9 deserves a second chance because she represents something Marvel rarely explores: cost of forcing ordinary kids into superhero machines. She reminded that not everyone who puts on a costume wants to, and that sometimes the most reluctant heroes end up being the ones we need most. Devil Slayer, the soldier haunted by demons. Eric Simon Payne, better known as Devil Slayer, is one of Marvel's darker, more haunted heroes. A man caught between the worlds of the soldier, mystic, and reluctant supernatural warrior. Born in Queenstown, Illinois, Payne's life was far from ordinary. He trained as a soldier and worked as a hitman before falling in with a cult called the Agents of Fortune, who unlocked the latent psychic potential of his mind and gave him a mystical shadow cloak. Eventually, Payne turned on the cult, vowing to use his powers to fight the very demons he had once been forced to serve. Devil Slayer was created by David Anthony Kraft and Rich Buckler, debuting in Marvel Spotlight number 33 in April 1977. Interestingly, the character was essentially a reworking of the Demon Hunter, a hero Kraft and Buckler had created for the short-lived Atlas Seaboard comics. When Atlas collapsed, they reimagined him for Marvel, changing the name, tweaking the costume, and continuing the character's backstory. His debut in Marvel Spotlight was cut short by the series cancellation, but he quickly found a home with the Defenders, where he became a recurring figure for many supernatural and mystical story arcs. In 2008, Marvel revisited the concept with a Max series, Dead of Night, featuring the Devil Slayer, introducing a modern successor in Danny Silva, Payne's great-nephew. Eric Payne's career in the Marvel Universe has always been defined by conflict and the weight of his past. Early on, he assisted the Defenders in battling mystical threats, like Vera Gemini and the Xenogenesis, confronting a demon-infused cult that included his own wife Corey, who chose to side with the cult leader. Payne faced demons such as Balthazar, who stripped him of his psychic powers and was forced into hellish dimensions where his allies appeared dead. Despite these challenges, he relied on his training, cunning, and mystical shadow cloak to survive. often balancing the line between heroism and the dark urges of his violent past. Later, Payne resurfaced in the Initiative-era stories, joining the Hawaiian team called Point Men as their monster hunter. During secret invasions, he used his shadow cloak to teleport allies and track skull infiltrators across the United States, showing both the versatility of his powers and his value in large-scale operations. He also briefly appeared during Doctor Strange's post-Sorcerer Supreme era as a potential candidate for the Eye of Agamotto, and later joined Wonder Man's Revengers, attempting to hold the Avengers accountable for their failures. Even with these appearances, Devil Slayer often drifted into obscurity, caught between street-level mysticism and Marvel's broader supernatural and cosmic stories. Devil Slayer's abilities make him one of Marvel's most flexible and dangerous heroes. His shadow cloak is a weapon, an armory, and a portal all at once, capable of extending itself as whips, grappling objects, or teleporting Payne and others across dimensions. Time itself behaves differently within the cloak, allowing him to place allies in stasis or traverse realms inaccessible to ordinary mortals. Payne also possesses limited psychic abilities, including telepathy, telekinesis, and a supernatural sixth sense for detecting mystical influence. Combined with his military training and expertise with nearly all forms of weaponry, he can operate effectively in hand-to-hand combat, ranged combat, or supernatural warfare. Despite his power and versatility, Devil Slayer has never been a headline character, and his appearances have been sporadic. He's a hero defined by his inner demons, his past mistakes, and his restless pursuit of redemption. That blend of soldier, mystic, and haunted anti-hero makes him ripe for a modern revival. Modern stories could explore him as a supernatural detective, haunting demons, cults, and mystical anomalies that ordinary heroes can't handle. He could cross paths with Doctor Strange on magical investigations, or team up with Moon Knight, whose darker street-level mysticism complements Payne's abilities. A story could also place him alongside the Defenders again, and Damian Hailstrom, navigating a multiversal threat that blends demonic invasions with morally gray choices. His moral ambiguity makes him ideal for mentoring younger heroes who aren't prepared for the harsh consequences of supernatural combat. Imagine Devil Slayer working with Spider-Man or Squirrel Girl, teaching them that the world isn't always black and white, or teaming with other characters to handle magical crises they can't face alone. He could also confront villains who straddle the line between mystical and mundane, such as Mephisto or Rogue Skrulls with magical enhancement. Simply put, Devil Slayer thrives in morally gray, high-stakes stories where he can bring grit, mysticism, and mentorship to the forefront of the Marvel Universe. Silverclaw, the wild spirit of a forgotten hero. Silverclaw, real name Maria de Guadalupe Santiago, also known as Lupe, is one of those characters who feels like she should have had a much bigger role in Marvel history. She was originally created by Kurt Busiek and George Perez, making her debut in Avengers Volume 3, Number 8 in 1998. With a strong mythological background tied to her Central American heritage, Silverclaw was poised to bring something new to Marvel's roster of heroes at the time. Her origin is deeply rooted in the legends of her homeland, Costa Verde. The Kamiki people believe their gods had long departed, except for one, Pelele, the volcano goddess. As the story goes, Lupe is the daughter of Pelele and a mortal man, giving her a divine heritage. Raised in an orphanage after her father's death, Lupe often felt like an outsider because of her unusual powers. But through her correspondence with Edwin Jarvis, who had been secretly sponsoring her through a charity program, she found inspiration in the Avengers and a sense of connection to the larger world. When Lupe eventually came to the United States to study at Empire State University, she found herself caught up in a terrorist plot, but soon revealed her heroic potential. It was then that she formally crossed paths with the Avengers, establishing herself as not only Jarvis's adopted niece, but also as a powerful ally. She would serve as a reserve Avenger and participate in multiple high-stake battles, from clashes with Moses Magnum to mystical showdowns against the likes of Kulan God. Silverclaw's powers make her stand out immediately. She's a shapeshifter who can wear forms of South American animals, including jaguars, crocodiles, monkeys, sloths, and even birds like cockatoos. Each form enhances her with traits such as claws, strength, flight, or resilience. Unlike many animal-based shapeshifters, Silverclaw's forms are unique hybrids of human and beast, always marked by her signature silvery skin. This gave her a striking visual identity that George Perez's artwork brought to life beautifully. Despite the strong start, Silverclaw's appearance dwindled after the early 2000s. She had moments during events like Maximum Security, Celestial Quest, and even Civil War, but after that she largely vanished from the spotlight. Marvel never gave her a long-term push, and she faded from Avengers roster in favor of other characters. That feels like a missed opportunity, because Silverclaw's story could resonate today. As the daughter of a goddess, she has a mythological weight similar to Thor or Hercules, but with a distinctly Central American flavor that Marvel has rarely explored in depth. A modern story could lean into her role as a bridge between the ancient gods and her people and the modern superhero world. For example, she could return to Costa Verde to uncover forgotten pantheons or rival deities, facing threats that only someone with her unique background could confront. There's also great potential in pairing her with other characters. Imagine Silverclaw joining forces with the Black Panther, or even Echo, two heroes who also balance cultural heritage with modern superheroics. Or teaming her up with Doctor Strange to tackle mystical threats tied to Latin American mythology. Even a story of her clashing with someone like Moon Knight, whose powers also stem from a god, could create an intriguing parallel about faith, heritage, and the cost of divine power. In many ways, Silverclaw represents Marvel's unfinished business. She was introduced as the next generation of Avenger, with roots in myth and culture, but she never really got the chance to fully grow into that role. Bringing her back today could not only expand Marvel's diversity of heroes, but also revive a character who was set up to carry her own unique corner of the universe. Blue Shield, hero who couldn't break through. Blue Shield, real name Joe Cartelli, made his debut in Dazzler number 5 in 1981, created by Tom DeFalco and Frank Springer. Unlike many Marvel heroes who stumble onto greatness through cosmic accidents or scientific experiments, Joe's story is deeply rooted in the streets. Born in the Bronx, he grew up in the shadow of organized crime, and when his father was gunned down by the mob, Joe swore revenge. His mission began as an undercover effort to infiltrate the Berrigan crime family, posing as one of their own. But things changed dramatically when he discovered a mysterious belt laced with advanced microcircuitry. This device gave him enhanced strength, stamina, and speed, while surrounding him with a powerful force field capable of deflecting bullets and shielding him from extreme conditions. Over time, the belt did more than just protect him. It rewrote his biology. Prolonged exposure permanently altered Joe's body, making the enhancements a part of him even without the technology. That twist gave him staying power, but it didn't give him a clear direction. He bounced across Marvel titles, often popping up in surprising places. After working briefly alongside Dazzler, he tried to join the Avengers, only to be overshadowed by more prominent recruits. He eventually found himself at Project Pegasus, the government's high-tech research facility that frequently becomes a battleground for alien incursions and superhuman conflicts. As security director, Blue Shield stood shoulder to shoulder with names like Quasar and Captain America, but despite those appearances, he never shook the sense of being a guest star in someone else's story. The truth is, Blue Shield never had a clear lane. His powers were strong enough to make him more than a gritty street fighter like Daredevil, but he lacked the charisma, mythos, or thematic hook to hold his own alongside Marvel's heavy hitters. He existed in this strange in-between space, durable enough to matter in a fight, but forgettable once the battle was over. By the 1990s, he slipped further into the margins, appearing sporadically before fading almost entirely from Marvel's publishing line. And yet, the bones of something interesting are there. His mob-busting roots could make him a natural fit in Marvel's ongoing crime sagas. Imagine Blue Shield as an uneasy ally to Spider-Man or Daredevil, using his powers to push back against the Magia, Kingpin, or even newer threats like the Hood. His connection to Project Pegasus also leaves the door open for bigger stories. He could serve as a bridge between grounded, street-level crime fighting and larger cosmic battles that threaten Earth. Pairing him with characters like Monica Rambeau, Quasar, or even the Guardians of the Galaxy would finally give him relevance on a bigger stage. A smart modern revival could even dig into the mystery of his belt. Where did it come from? Was it an alien relic, an abandoned prototype? Or maybe something darker, an early attempt at weaponizing human DNA that left Joe permanently changed? Exploring the origins of his powers could give Blue Shield the kind of mythology he's always lacked, while also setting him up as a player in Marvel's larger sci-fi landscape. At the end of the day, Blue Shield embodies the kind of hero Marvel used to specialize in: ordinary people who stumble into extraordinary circumstances, and then have to decide what to do with the weight of responsibility. He's a man forged by loss, altered by mysterious science, and defined by his refusal to back down, even when the world barely remembers his name. Bringing him back wouldn't just resurrect a forgotten hero, it would finally give Joe Cartelli a story he's been waiting for since 1981. And that wraps up my look at these overlooked characters of the Marvel Universe. From cartoonish chaos to mystical powers, divine connections to high-tech crime fighting. These heroes may have faded into the background, but their stories are still worth remembering. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next installment of my journey through Marvel and other companies' forgotten characters. And drop a comment letting me know which character you think deserves a comeback the most. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.